Oh, hey, Darryl. Hey, everyone. It's just reading my favorite book here, The Secure Method,
I
signed
think you,
copy by my friend Darryl.
I
You
think you're
know,
making that up.
parts of it, but I do really enjoy your book, Darryl, because it is written the way that you talk, which is in a way that I understand things. However, one of the highlights of the book is certainly when you were running a race and you were winning the race, right? But then you went in the wrong direction, which we do tie back to retirement because you call part of your retirement plan, the Secure Method, a course map. But tell me about the story first when you were winning the race and went the wrong way.
Yes, I promise we will get to some actual points that have something to do with retirement. And maybe I'll put chapters on this video. So if you don't want to hear my story, you could just skip right past it. And I'll tell you, Aaron, it wasn't the Olympics. Okay. It wasn't exactly the Olympics, but I was winning a race. This was about 20 years ago. I was winning the race and I was really far ahead of the field, and I got to an unmarked intersection. I don't think that the is it the Scarecrow in the Wizard of Oz? I don't think that the Scarecrow could have helped me. And to make a long story bearable, I went the wrong way. And I offer this as a service to our viewers, Aaron. If viewers, if you ever find yourself winning a race, I'm going to tell you how you know if you've gone the wrong way. Your watch says 3.2 miles, and you can't see the finish line or anybody else in the 3.1 mile race. So I learned a really valuable lesson in what would have been my only opportunity to win a race. And that's that you have to have a course map. So I have a concept I call securement. Securement, as you know, is not extraordinary riches. It's the immense wealth that comes from feeling comfortable and happy about the future. And when I do the course map for people, I look at 5 specific things. And I think that that would be a good subject for us for today.
Right. So let's talk about those 5 things so that you don't end up on the wrong track, right? Number 1 is you need to know how much you can spend. That does seem crucial.
Right. Sort of rudimentary, right? Determine your annual spending level. And I say this because and by the way, as you know, as we've discussed this before, is I want people to be able to spend more money when they're younger and healthier near the beginning of retirement. I think that some of the distribution methods that we hear about, like the 4% rule, which is really just a rule of thumb, I don't necessarily like that, because I think that we don't spend enough money when we can. Before we know it, it's too late. So we have to determine the optimal spending level. But what I'm always going to do is take a look at what you're spending right now and what we want to spend in retirement. Maybe there's a mortgage that you're not going to have. There's certainly going to be medical expenses that we're going to talk about later in this video. But I do want to try to create an environment where not only do we determine your optimal spending level at various points in retirement, but also that we push it a little bit if we can upfront. So that's always the first thing, is to try to talk about spending.
All right, Darryl, let's move on to step number 2, which is how to segment so that you reduce investment risk. What does that mean exactly?
Okay, so this is important. When we look at retirement, let's say we look at retirement over a 25-year period, let's say 65 to 90, just for the sake of argument. What we do, what the roadmap does, is it breaks retirement into 5 distinct periods of 5 years. Now we have flexibility with this, but the point is that we're going to take differing levels of risk based upon each bucket. So money we don't need for 20 years should be treated differently than money we need over the first 5 years of retirement, because the risk-free interest rate is so attractive right now. It's still around 5%. It means that we don't have to take any risk with money we need to pay our bills or money that we need for the beginning of retirement. So what we talk about with segmenting, and it's a big part of this plan. When we talk about segmenting, it's let's look at things based upon time horizon and not the more traditional stock bond allocation based upon how old you are. I think we can be smarter about it.
And that leads us into step number 3, which is how to reduce taxes by withdrawing the proper amount from each bucket. I know without proper planning, taxes can be one of your biggest expenses.
Oh, yeah. Well, if we think, everybody has, every account you have can have 1 of 3 tax classifications. It could be non-qualified, or like an individual account. Those would be brokerage accounts and savings accounts, and those tax deferred, which is where most of America has their money, IRAs, 401ks, and then Roth accounts, or life insurance if it's structured the right way. So we have these 3 buckets. Well, what a lot of people don't realize, and I see this in the computer when I'm putting a plan together, is if you shift around the way that money flows out in retirement, it can either give you more money in the end or less money. It can either allow you to spend more money when you're younger and healthier, which is always the goal, or less money. So there is a rationale. There is a withdrawal strategy that helps us reduce taxes. Some of it has to do with Social Security. If we take money out the right way, maybe our Social Security isn't taxed. And so Erin, if we can lower the effective tax rate we pay in retirement by 1%, it's a lot of money. So we're always going to be looking at taxes.
And I'm glad you mentioned Social Security. A lot of people probably don't even realize that it is taxed, but claiming Social Security. So you need to figure out how to maximize Social Security. It's very complicated.
Right. It's not life or death. As I always say, we're not balance sheets, we're not spreadsheets, we're not algorithms, we're people. Sometimes we just want to collect it. I've had a lot of people say, I just want my money, and that can be fine, but at least let us know what the ramifications are of collecting at 62, 67, which is full retirement age for anybody who was born after 1960, or even waiting till 70, which is where the benefit maxes out. Now, there may be some changes to Social Security down the line. I think our children will see some changes. I'm not sure we will. The biggest consideration, I think, with Social Security comes when you're married, because when you take your benefit, it affects your spouse's benefit. If it's a spousal benefit, when you take your benefit, let's say, for example, I'll use my very favorite first wife, Jill, and me as an example. I have a full retirement age benefit, and if I pass away, she'll get my benefit and lose hers. So presumably we want to wait. So there's a lot of decisions that go into Social Security. I want to know how it looks, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're always going to do what will maximize the benefit. There is something known as comfort. I think you've heard me talk about comfort. There is something known as comfort, and that part's important.
And for those listening who don't know, your favorite first wife, Jill, is still your current wife.
That's correct. She went to work, so I don't know. She went to work. I hope she comes home.
Number 5, how to account for healthcare. For most retirees, healthcare is going to be their largest expense in retirement.
Right. This is a big one. By the way, if we just take a little step back as we address healthcare, every roadmap, any good roadmap for the future, any good retirement plan must look at your spending level net. And what I mean by that is, if you say to me, Aaron, I want to spend $6,000 a month in retirement, then as your planner, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to get you to 6,000, but above that line is going to be healthcare and taxes. So really, if you want $6,000 to live, it's really, $9,000. It's higher because of taxes and healthcare. So I think that many people, they know healthcare will be expensive. There's Medicare Part A, Part B. There's a Medigap coverage. There's Part D. There's out of pocket. We know these costs will have an effect on our future. What we don't know, though, is how it will affect each year of our future. And I always say this in class, like everybody thinks I'm a big hero, that I spend $25 a month to get real Medicare data into my system so that I can look at it year by year. Because Aaron, if you tell me that you want to spend $6,000, then I have to find a way to get you the $6,000 after all of that other stuff. Otherwise, you're just going to have a rude surprise when there's less money in the checking account at the end of the month. So some of it's normal healthcare. A lot of it, as you know, because we've talked about this, is long-term care. I've shared over and over. My dad has dementia. My father-in-law just passed away. He had Parkinson's and dementia. They both had long-term care policies. I am a big fan of taking long-term care risk off the table. But at the very least, I want to understand how it looks. I want to understand how it looks in the plan. It doesn't mean you want to take that risk off the table necessarily, but I want to at least understand how it looks. I think that part is super important. We we can't ignore the potential, even if it doesn't turn out to be a life-changing monetary event, as it has in my life. And so all of these things, Aaron, right? Determine your optimal spending, segment your investments, reduce taxes by choosing an optimal withdrawal strategy, unlock the full potential of Social Security, consider healthcare, and make sure you're accounting for all of those costs. All that leads to our overarching goal, and that's to create a plan that allows people to spend more when they're younger and healthier. I cannot emphasize that enough. That is what the roadmap should lead to for all of us.
Right. And with proper planning, you can spend when you're younger and healthier without fear of running out when you're nearing the end of your lifetime, right?
We hope so. Now, I had to have a hard conversation with a client the other day who I would taken my advice a little too literally, spending just a little bit too much. And so we have to be careful. It doesn't necessarily mean we have to do it for 30 years. Like in my retirement plan, I have spending, I don't know, $1,000 a month for travel above and beyond the normal living expenses. So I think I have that in the plan for 10 years. And I put it like that. I just wanted to see how it looked. Would the plan still work? It still works. It doesn't mean I have to do it for 10 years like that. It just means that I want to make sure that we can spend more money when we're younger and healthier. And, I see so many people that just don't want to let go of the purse strings just a little. And I think that you'll eventually get to a point where you can't do anything anymore. You're not going to spend money because that's just your age. So I think that we have to be careful about that. Very, very important to me in case it isn't clear.
So that you can stay on track, Darryl.
Correct. So you can, stay on track or stay on course.